In this case, saddened by the outcome of a sports event than I was by that one. I'm talking about the miracle on ice, Kirk Gibson, Dwight Clark's catch. Those were all positive outcomes, shockingly positive. In this case, so shockingly negative, because Stephen A., I tweeted round by round. I had it 11-1 Pacquiao. I had it 119-109 Pacquiao. I knew that Pacquiao had landed almost 100 more punches than Timothy Bradley had. I gave him high marks, Timothy Bradley, for taking those punches and hanging in there and coming back for more. And now we hear that both of his feet or legs were hurt. That's just all the more reason to wonder how in the world did those judges score the fight the way they scored it. And Bob Arum said after the fight, he went into the ring and Timothy Bradley said to him, "Bob, I gave it my all. I just couldn't beat the guy." So was it a setup? Because they immediately talked about the November 10th rematch. It's just hard for me to believe that it was a setup.
Skip, let me jump in 1 second. Skip, let me jump in 1 second, because we just had a newswire that moved, and I know you're talking about the rematch that we heard after the fight Saturday and even all day Sunday was already set. According to a newswire that moved just seconds ago, this is from Bob Arum. He is saying that it is not necessarily set in stone that a rematch will happen. And part of the reason is, and this is a quote from Arum, no one wants to come to a Bradley rematch because most fight watchers considered Pacquiao's effort a one-sided victory. The only reason I interrupt you, it's breaking news, so not necessarily a given on the rematch, at least not yet. Go ahead.
No. Well, I mean, Bob Arum had actually said that yesterday, that he said, let's hold the phone on the rematch because people are going to be so outraged they won't want to buy tickets to the rematch. And Bob says, look, because I handle both fighters, I stand to make money from the rematch. But he was very upfront about how that outcome on Saturday night, Stephen A., could be a death knell for boxing. I'm going to throw one theory at you. I know you were at the Heat game, the Game 7, but I watched the whole pre-fight when Pacquiao disappeared for a while from his dressing room because he was watching his Boston Celtics. The game went a little later than he expected. Then he needed to go find a treadmill to warm up his calves that bother him. I think maybe the judges were miffed at him for holding up their fight, their sports event, for so long that maybe they just took it out on him, that they judged round by round way too harshly. That's my only long shot reason that I can read into what happened on Saturday night, because the rest of the judging from all three are just mystifying to me.
Well, first of all, let me say this. Two of the judges, one was 74 years of age, one was 71 years of age. It's not about age discrimination. It's you're just pointing out the obvious from the perspective that, you know, if you're that old and you've been involved in the sport for that long, then obviously you might have a ingrained belief as to what the sport demands and professional decorum, entering a ring at a certain period of time, not keeping them waiting, those kind of things you just pointed to, and how that could potentially influence their mindset and them in terms of them being a bit temperamental before the fight even began. But, you know, on this show, you know, First Take here, you know, we're about making a difference, and we're about calling it like we see it. So, Skip, let me take the bull by the horn and make this proposal. I'm going to look into the eyes of America right now, and I'm going to say, we shouldn't entertain any more pay-per-view fights. None of them. The sport of boxing doesn't give 2 cents about us, and they show it to us at every turn. We never get the fights that we want to see precisely when we want to see them. We always have to wait years before things materialize because the sport is at the mercy of 2 to 3 promoters. And even when we get it, we see highway robberies of the highest order the way this went down. I got a lot of respect for Timothy Bradley, and I'm sad for him. He's got a great story. He's a hard worker. He's hardcore. He's a fighter. Clearly, he took it seriously. He was in phenomenal shape. He just doesn't have any punching power or the boxing skills that match up with the great Manny Pacquiao. It's that simple. No knock against him. It just is. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. But to be into that ring and for this to transpire, it was as egregious as it gets. The only thing that comes to my mind, Skip, that was worse than this was when Pernell Whitaker was robbed of a victory against the great Julio Cesar Chavez, when I thought he gave Chavez a boxing lesson, and it was called a draw. I mean, that was a robbery in and of itself. But this right here was even worse because I went back and watched the replay. I went back and watched the replay of the fight. I mean, I had somebody pay for it pay-per-view because I was at Game 7, and then I watched it before I got to Oklahoma City. It is just disgusting what has transpired. Pacquiao won at least 10 rounds. It was clearly lopsided. Everybody and their grandmama knew it. And it's just embarrassing that they let this happen. But we play the suckers far too often. We should stop giving them our money. They don't deserve it. We should not support the sport. A matter of fact, I'm personally calling for government officials, legislators on Capitol Hill to get involved with policing this sport so this nonsense could stop. They have no representation whatsoever, no association that represents the well-being of the fighters. They put forth that hard work. I don't know any athletes more hardworking than professional boxers, yet they go into the ring and they're at the mercy of bogus judges and corrupt promoters and the like. And it has to stop. Don't give him your pay-per-view money. I don't want to see it. I don't want to talk about it. The fact that Mayweather and Pacquiao haven't fought yet is to me is just as egregious because once again they're showing an unwillingness to care about what we want. So if they don't care about what we want, we shouldn't care about what they do until they get their act together. I will never pay for a fight again until I start seeing the fights that I want to see when I want to see them, so I can have some confidence that we're not being manipulated.